Good evening. Welcome to the City of Lebanon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, Monday, June 6th, 2022. Do we have call to order? Roll call.
Mark Vanneman.
Here.
Chad Kiger.
Here.
Bruce Pauley.
Here.
Ron Edwards.
Here.
Lori Gross. Here.
Do we have everybody here? Do we have any changes to the minutes from last month that anybody wants to make? Not, entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Again, this is a public meeting, so when the time comes, anybody that wants to speak is more than welcome to. Just ask that you sign in at some point before you leave. First item is docket 2239, KMAC Enterprises requesting 5 development standard variances to construct a new Taco Bell and a 7 Brew coffee shop located at 2437 North Lebanon Street. Property is zoned BBC, planned business commercial, and is in the Thoroughfare Overlay District. Mr. Ben.
Good evening, board members. I will give you an overview of this project and walk through each one of the variance requests. So if they'll pull the screen up for you, kind of give you an overview of the site that you're probably all familiar with. This is an existing developed site on North Lebanon Street. It's currently a used car lot, and the applicant is looking to redevelop this site into 2 new uses. And as you might expect, when you're taking an existing developed site and trying to use that site for new uses, you run into some issues either with setbacks or buffer yards and the like when you take that existing site and try to apply the new standards to it. Kind of the other thing that you're looking at, and we're looking at here, is some of the new uses and how the drive-through setbacks and those things are making it much more difficult to make a lot like this work for the distances you need for some of those. As you're seeing, a lot of the fast food places now have 2 drive-through lanes as opposed to 1, which requires more space. So really trying to make those things fit on these new sites here, or on these existing sites. So we did work through with the applicant. There's been a number of this. The applicant attests there's been a number of changes over the last 6 weeks on this site, trying to get a place where we're all comfortable with it. And there are just a handful of variances that were still necessary based on the standards that apply to the site. In particular, the Thoroughfare Overlay District does add an additional layer of setbacks that were really challenging, trying to figure out how to make this work with the site. So we did work with the applicant to try to get something that worked well and allowed them to use the property, but then also made sure we got some of the improvements that are necessary from those overlay districts as well. So I'll walk through, again, you see the site here, and what they're going to be doing is going to be providing 2 different uses on this site, where now there is just a large parking lot and a small building. So we'll go through the site plans here. This would be, this northern building is the Taco Bell here that you see, and then this southern building then would be the 7 Brew. And I'll walk through a little bit. The first request is a front building setback variance, and this is actually due to the fact that when you couple the Thoroughfare Overlay District setback at 20 feet plus the 50-foot setback, the 70-foot setback is somewhere in the front third of this Taco Bell building. And what they're looking at here in terms of how they're designing their site, one, they've got the dumpster enclosure to the back, which is where we want to see it. They also need a pass-through lane around the 2 drive-through lanes. And actually, you've got 1 order drive-through lane here, and then also a pickup window, because we're seeing a lot of people ordering things online and then just going to pick it up. And so they've got a lane specific to those pickups that you see here. So by the time you accommodate, the service area, the pass-through lane, and then those 2 drive-through lanes, it really pushes that building forward a little bit. So the building, actually, the request is to put it about 40 feet from the front building line as opposed to 70 feet, which is what would be typically required in the overlay district. And that, again, is primarily to accommodate the kind of this new site plan that you're seeing for a lot of these fast food places with the dual drive-through lanes. The second request would be the front rear parking setback, and again, this is due to the fact that we're working with an existing site where the pavement really already does not have much of a setback. So we're really trying to create some landscape areas where we can and accommodate what they're trying to do with the site as well. So again, with that buffer yard requirement of 20 feet, you add the additional 10-foot setback for the front parking. So you're looking at a front setback of 30 feet from the front property line. And what they're looking at here is a setback that is closer to 7 feet, which mimics really what is there now on the front. and then they're actually providing a setback of 4 feet on the back where there really isn't a setback now. And at that east property line, the setback would be 5 feet typically, and they're looking at 4 feet. So again, we are making sure to provide a place where we can provide landscaping at both the front and rear of this property, and really still trying, as you can see, on this original site, we really just have a couple feet in the front and really nothing in terms of a setback on the rear. So trying to make sure we can accommodate what they're trying to develop here on this site, and still making sure we're getting some landscape period, which is something that is critical to staff to make sure. Variance request number 3 then is that corridor buffer setback along the front, and again trying to accommodate both the development of the site and some designs. So they're requesting relief from the setback requirement. Now couple that with, we've been working with them on a landscape plan. They are going to provide all the required landscaping from the buffer yard, parking lot, perimeter, all that. So all the plants are going to be there. They're just not able to provide that 20-foot buffer yard. So while the setback is going to be reduced, they are still going to provide all those plants that are required. And we've been working with them over about the last 3 weeks to get it to the point where they're able to meet those requirements. So the request is here to reduce the setback, but not reduce the buffer planting requirements. Variance request number 4, lot plantings. In the overlay district, there is a building-based landscaping requirement of 75% of the perimeter of the building. And in case of the Taco Bell, you see here they do have some building-based landscaping to the front and a little bit to the rear. But in terms of trying to fit that 75%, certainly on the north side of the buildings where you got the drive-through lane, so you really can't put any landscape on the north side of the building. The south side of the building, when you look at that 5-foot minimum that's required, plus the sidewalks, then trying to get the required parking and all the required drive aisles, you're starting to run out of space between Taco Bell and the property line. So what we did is work with them to make sure that we've got appropriate building-based landscaping to the front and the rear of the building. And you can kind of see here where we do have some landscaping provided in those areas, trees and shrubs. And then they're requesting relief from that 75% perimeter requirement associated with the building-based landscaping in order, again, to try to repurpose this site for what they're doing here. The last one is actually related to the 7 Brew itself. So I'll let the applicant maybe walk through the concept for this a little bit more with you, but 7 Brew is a coffee shop. It is a drive-through. It does not have inside seating, so their primary customer is going to be going through a drive-through lane, getting their coffee and going on their way. They do have a walk-up window and a place where they have a picnic table outside under a canopy, but I would guess 90+% of their business is all going to be people coming through the drive-through in the car. We do have in the Thoroughfare overlay district a list of prohibited uses within the overlay district, and one of those is drive-through establishments. I don't necessarily know the history on why that was added to the UDO, but in terms of how a drive-through establishment works versus your typical fast food restaurant, whose business is you're seeing a lot in the drive-through, the actual usability of the site is very similar, and what you see from the street is very similar between the two. So I can't really explain to you exactly what the thought process was there when that was added to the UDO as a prohibited use. But really, when you're looking at a modern fast food restaurant versus a drive-through establishment, what you see from the street is not terribly different. And what you see from the site, on this site plan here, again, 2 drive-through lanes for the Taco Bell, 2 drive-through lanes for the 7 Brew. So in terms of what you see from the street, you're going to see a very similar establishment, a little bit smaller building, certainly for the 7 Brew though. So that last request is for relief from that prohibited use requirement to allow the drive-through establishment, as you see here on the site. And again, you can see a significant landscaping around the perimeter of the buildings, and actually there's more on this is actually about one rendition old. There is a new site plan that was just delivered to me just a little while ago. There are additional plants than you even see here. So we've got a significantly landscaped site. So even though, again, we've got some of those reduced setbacks, we're still providing a significant amount of landscaping, including quite a bit of landscaping around the drive-through itself associated with 7 Brew. So again, we're getting plenty of screening on the parking lot perimeters there. So just walking through then, for the record, I will just identify that we have provided findings of fact for each of the 5 variance requests. I will walk through kind of the explanation on the practical difficulties that relate to drive-through. Again, this is something we're getting ready to redo our Unified Development Ordinance anyway, so we're going to be evaluating this and trying to figure out exactly how we might address this in the future. This may be one where we change how we address a use like this. I don't necessarily see a problem with this kind of use on what our primary corridors, which is where you probably would see them anyway. So we may be reevaluating how we address these things anyway. But in terms of the practical difficulties, it kind of goes along with what I said already about how the usability is very similar to a fast food restaurant. And the look and operation of a drive-through establishment is very similar to a typical fast food restaurant with drive-through. which is permitted in the overlay district, except for the fact that in this case, it doesn't also include inside seating. So from the street, you're really not going to be able to tell that there's not inside seating, but that's primarily the difference between a fast food restaurant and a drive-through is what's happening inside the building. In particular, now that many fast food restaurants include dual drive-through lanes, the operation of the site in comparison to the Brew 7 Brew would be very similar. So again, you see the dual drive-through lanes for both buildings. One just happens to have some inside seating also, although kind of looking at how the Taco Bell is laid out, my guess is there's not a ton of inside seating anymore on their typical new model anyway. So that was how we had identified the strict application would result in practical difficulties, is really when you look at how the site is used, it's very similar between a fast food and a drive-through establishment. So limiting one and not limiting the other would be the practical difficulty. And with that then, we have recommended approval of each of the 5 development standards variances associated with the development of the Taco Bell and 7 Brew. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Then I have a question about the property lines. If you could pull up that, the yellow bordered parcel map.
Yes.
So I see an orange line. This parcel seems to be divided into 3 separate parcels.
Yeah. They're actually going to be replatting this
Okay.
Into 2. So what the result of that will be a property line that is going to run somewhere in this area just south of the new entrance. So you will have it replatted to 1 lot for Taco Bell and then 1 lot for 7 Brew. There'll have to be some sort of parking easement established to allow employees of 7 Brew to park on the Taco Bell site. But otherwise, there will be just two lots as opposed to 3.
So essentially, we will end up with 1 business on 2 separate parcels? Or 1 business on each separate parcel?
Yes. Yeah, there will be 2 parcels, Taco Bell on one, 7 Brew on the other.
So remind me, these variances that we're voting on, are they attached to the parcel? Or are they attached to the business?
They will be attached to the parcel.
Okay.
So
Okay.
obviously we did a legal description for the 3 separate parcels, but even after those new lots are platted, these variances would be applied to the 2 new parcels.
I
as well.
understand, okay.
And what is the current setback on Burger King? Do you know, they look like they're gonna be pretty similar, but it looks like
Yeah.
Burger King's up a little bit too.
Yeah, I think Burger King's probably in that same 40 to 50 foot range. So
Okay.
we obviously haven't overlaid that new building, but I think you're correct.
It almost looks like
They're
it would
very-
line up
They would be
pretty-
very similar
Okay,
setbacks.
That's what I was thinking.
Is there going to have to be a new cut on 39?
So it will be a new cut. We're actually going to close the existing cut and move it north, and that was for traffic flow with the 7 Brew, making sure people can get in and out of there. And what we did is we lined the new cut up with the cut that's on the east end, so that if people are coming out and see that the left-hand turn lane is backed up there, they would see that there's a way to get out going the other direction.
I'm assuming the applicant's probably going to address the traffic flow and how all that'll work.
I think they can, but I mean, I can, that was a big reason that the site plan has changed 7 or 8 times already.
Yeah.
Is we've been working with them to try to get the entrance and how you get through the 7 Brew site. As you can imagine, 7 Brew is going to be busy from like 7 to 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that there was plenty of queuing space, so it wouldn't back out onto State Road 39, but then also a way for people to get out and make right and left-hand turns back onto State Road 39, but then also see that there's a bailout. going
Commercial
the other
drive.
direction.
Yeah.
That was very important as we were looking.
As I was looking at that picture, I was trying to envision coming northbound on 39, turning right into the property, but wanting to go to Taco Bell and not 7 Brew.
Yeah.
How would I cross that? Is there like a barrier between the parcels?
Not necessarily. So there is a stop bar as you're leaving 7 Brew. There's a stop bar, so you can stop there, and there can be signage to make sure that do not block the aisle. But then the person coming in, they may be in a situation where they have to go
You're
further
not
to
like
the
turning
east.
into oncoming traffic, people coming out of Taco
Yeah,
Bell?
that's why we made sure there was a stop bar there with said
Okay,
coming out of the 7 Brew, so it's not just a constant flow of traffic out of there.
yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Would the applicant care to step forward with any comments?
Mike Goins, the construction construction manager for K-Mac Enterprises, and I don't have anything to add. Good, I can answer any questions though.
Does it make sense to make it one way so that you have to exit onto Commercial Drive? I'm just envisioning
Yeah.
a flow of traffic
I think
exiting
the
and
challenge
exiting.
is even if we sign it as one way, people are still going to try to go out that
Yeah.
way. So I think what we've done is we made sure there's a right turn lane, a left turn lane, and then the single entrance lane, and made sure that there's plenty of queuing for probably 3 to 4 cars leaving to the westbound. But then again, also, we pushed that exit from Seven Brew far enough back that people will have the ability to see that there's a way to bail out to
Right.
the east. But I think we probably actually, it may make it worse to try to make it one way, because I think then you're still trying to figure out how to get people in and out.
Yeah.
So,
Do we know anything, I know the operator's not here, but do we know anything about like drive-through times and the potential for traffic stacking?
yeah, I think they do have numbers. Seven Brew is a fairly new concept, but they do have numbers on that. And they, like I said, their busy times are 7 to 10 a.m., then it drops off significantly after that. And they have done analysis to show that they've got plenty of queuing space, and of course, there's rapid turnover of people leaving too.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's pretty quick. But yeah, I think our biggest concern, and this has already been discussed with NDOT also. This is actually this site plan has already been reviewed by NDOT to make sure they were comfortable with that we've got proper queuing for people getting out, and they prefer to be able to see that people could see the bailout to the east the way we've got established now, because before the entrance was further south, and it wasn't as easy to see that bailout.
Is this a newer concept in terms of having two drive-through heavy businesses in close proximity to each other?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm
I just
sure
wonder if COVID kind of, I'm sure it's prompted more drive-through and carry-out business. but-
Yeah. I think the
And that
fact
is
that
a
we're
new
having
format.
2 drive-through lanes, I think, is a newer concept. And just for convenience, efficiency of getting people through. But I think also in Taco Bell's case, we're seeing a lot of people do online orders now. So that second drive-through is specific to people just coming for a pickup of an online
Yeah.
order.
Okay.
And I think that's the difference. I mean, I mentioned Taco Bell. I don't think there's a lot of inside seating. I think a lot of that's gone away in the last few years. So their newer concept is online orders and drive-through.
We don't have any other businesses like this in Lebanon, right? That have the 2 drive-throughs that share an entrance and an exit?
So 2 different users that share?
Yeah, two exact formats, so.
Not that I can think of. We will have a situation out in Gateway Marketplace where you've got 2 buildings next to each other that will both have drive-throughs once Dunkin's open.
Yeah,
And they do have a shared entrance between the 2 of them. But Dunkin's exit will be in a different spot, so it's not quite the same thing.
right, it's kind of contained.
Yeah, but I can't think of a situation right now necessarily where we have 2 drive-through establishments like this with a shared entrance.
Yeah, okay. I guess that's a concern I have, just being State Road 39 and
And I think
as
maybe,
busy
Chad,
it is, it is.
From this, so I don't know that necessarily relates to the variances they're
No, it
requesting,
doesn't.
but it's certainly something the Plan Commission
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks needs to work through.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've certainly, like I said, we've spent the last 6 weeks working with them. This site plan has changed probably 6 times and got it to the point where both Kevin is comfortable and NDOT is comfortable with the way it's laid out.
Yeah, okay. But, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you have anything else you want to add or comments or anything?
I don't think so. It is the same operator as the current Taco Bell, and they.
Could you come up, yeah,
Sorry.
please,
It's
thank
the
you.
same operator as the current Taco Bell. They just want a second location in town. The Seven Brew concept is the same operator. It's 2 separate entities, but the same franchise group.
Okay. Thank you. Being a public meeting, does anybody in the audience care to voice an opinion? Okay, then we will close the public end of the meeting. More questions from the board? Okay, entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion to approve Docket number 22-39, as written.
Second.
Kelly?
Mark Vanneman,
Aye.
Chad Kiger,
Aye.
Bruce Pauly,
Aye.
Ron Edwards,
Aye.
Lori Gross.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next item is docket 2241. It's the Lighthouse Baptist Church requesting a development standard variance for an LED sign. The property is located at 858 West, 250 North, and the property is zoned institutional.
Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Polly. Give you a little bit of overview here. This is a request for an LED sign at Lighthouse Baptist Church. As you will recall, we currently have a standard that LED signs can be no more than 25% of the allowable sign area. Maximum sign area for a ground sign here would be 32 square feet, which may be limited to 8 square feet. And the one thing before I get into this is I'll say is I think we're going to see more of these rather than less of them, because I think a lot of people are going to this technology to provide information to their clients and other people in the area. And I think when I look back at when this was written, when our UDO was written, a lot of people were just doing time and temperature LED displays, which really are a small part of the overall signage, but I think a lot of people are now going to a larger LED sign because the technology has changed so much in the last 5 to 10 years. So this is something also that I think we'll be looking at and addressing further when we update our UDO this year too, just to figure out how best to address the new technology that is these LED signs and make sure some things people still have the flexibility to use them, but make sure that we're also make sure they're safe and they're not too bright and all those good things. So with that, then I'll kind of go through an overview of this for you. Find the rendering of the sign here. All right, if I'm going to bring the screen up, you will see here. This is the sign again, which has a 32 square foot sign. The top about 1/3 or a little bit more than 1/3 of it would be a static Lighthouse Baptist Church sign, and then this bottom about 2/3 of it then would be the digital LED display. This is a similar request that we've had probably 2 or 3 times previously, and what we focus on in terms of staff is, one, making sure that it doesn't include movement, which could be a distraction for motorists, and then also we like to address the brightness of the sign during the daytime and, more importantly, during the nighttime, and making sure it's not so bright that it's causing issues with neighbors or motorists or anything like that. So that's really what we focus on in these cases. In allowing any sort of increase in the sign size. We've done this for the Parks Department, we've done it for the car wash on Lebanon Street, I think there's 2 or 3 others we've done in the last few years too.
Highway Hut.
Yes, Highway Hut as well, and so one thing, and the applicant can address this too, there are residents that are within a few hundred feet of this sign that live in the area and across the street from it. I don't know if they have any intentions of using this sign at night. We have limited the brightness of the sign at nighttime, but there's also a discussion with the applicant maybe to bring up whether they even intend to use the sign at night. Maybe there could be a discussion with them about turning it off too. So I will go through kind of my staff report. Again, this is a request for a larger LED sign than the 25% that's permitted. And we have addressed the 3 findings of fact in the staff report. Again, they're asking for about a 50% of the allowable space for the LED sign as opposed to 25. We have addressed the 3 findings of fact in the staff report, including the practical difficulties. Again, as I mentioned before, newer technologies has changed a lot since we wrote this UDO. So we're really looking to try as best to address this new technology that are being used by businesses, and et cetera. With that, then, we have recommended approval of the development standards variance to allow an increase in the maximum electronic message board sign. Again, as I mentioned, motion and lighting are the brightest or the most important things. So the conditions are the sign brightness will result in an increase over the ambient lighting conditions of no more than 0.4 foot candles. And what we need to do is during the daytime measure the ambient lighting condition and then measure it then with the sign on. Same thing at night, turn the sign off, what's the foot candle measurement, turn the sign back on, it cannot increase by more than 0.4 foot candles. When you compare that to how we address site lighting, like parking lot lighting, we only allow 0.3 foot candles at a property line adjacent to residential and 0.5 or adjacent to a property line where it's commercial. So what we'd be looking at here is making sure that if I'm standing in front of that sign, they turn it on, it doesn't increase by more than 0.4 foot candles, which would limit at the property line how much the brightness would increase. And what I will also show you is the site plan. I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit so you can actually see this. So where they are proposing to put the sign, they've provided some dimensions here. So the sign is about 30 feet off the edge of the road. It's about almost 330 feet from, this is actually the eastern property line. There are homes run along this east property line, so this sign is going to be about 330 feet from that eastern property line. So again, we'll be measuring the 0.4 foot candles adjacent to the sign, so we're clearly not going to cause an issue at that property line. And then to the west, it's a little over 200 feet to that western property line. And we'll do the same thing along that frontage because we do have homes across the street, so we'll measure those ambient lighting conditions at the property line to the front to make sure it doesn't increase by more than 0.4 foot candles. The last two are related to motion, which can be a distraction. So the first one is mentioned is transitions. So if they were going to rotate between different messages, you can have a message time of at least 10 seconds with a 1 second transition. So we don't want it going from a quick transition between, which can be distraction motor, so it's got to be up at least 10 seconds. And then we want a quick transition, so again, it doesn't cause distractions. And the last one will be animation, and the sign will not be permitted to include any animations or videos that may cause distractions to adjacent motors. So that concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are these three items here, I take it that these are the same ones that use on all the other signs?
This is the same conditions we placed on the highway hut, the Parks Department, same ones.
Same sign company?
As the others, I don't know the answer to that question. I haven't looked to see who was before.
You know if the sign is, the foot candles is something that can be adjusted or set?
I'll let them answer that, but typically on LED signs, yes, they can
Okay.
be.
This is the same size as the one at the park?
This is actually a little bit smaller, so the Parks Department did their entire sign
Right.
digital. This one would only be half of what they're permitted. So the Parks is about 32 square feet, this is about 16 square feet that the LED sign is.
Thank you, sir. Would the applicant step forward, please?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Cindy Thrasher, and I'm here to represent the church and Greenfield signs. I know there's been questions about the brightness, so I was not aware of anybody having issues until this weekend late. So I tried to get a hold of the sign company, and the owners that I've been dealing with, I found out, are out of town on vacation with no internet access. So I did talk to another person that is in the sign company that works there, and they was telling me that the signs can be adjustable, so they can adjust it to dim or whatever the board recommends for nighttime. And then they said also they can put on timers where it shuts totally off at night. I did also leave a message for the church, and I did not get a return call from them today either. So I'm not sure if their plans is to shut it off at night or not, but I know that is a possibility if that's what you all would, put in the stipulation for their sign.
If you have questions, you can ask me.
Oh, okay, good. So are you planning?
Wait a minute. You want to go on up to the,
Sure.
I'm so glad.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of
well,
paying earlier
he's
today.
with the sign company.
Okay, we didn't plan on shutting it off at night. I mean, that's, people are going to
Okay.
drive by at night.
Can we have your name, please?
Merv McNair,
Okay. And how are you associated?
I pastor the church.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, I thought nighttime's a good time to see that sign. As far as, in the wintertime, it gets darker quicker anyways, so to answer that question, we didn't plan on turning it off, so I understand having too much going on.
I have a question. Wouldn't you like it to be on 24 hours?
I would. Yep. It would defeat the purpose. We would have got just a regular sign if we weren't looking to keep it on 24 hours.
Work stay on. Work stay on 24 hours?
I'm pretty sure it does.
I think it is, yeah.
I think the other two that we have approved, they stay on 24 hours.
Yeah, I think that's right, Ron.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now I will open it to the public if anybody cares to step forward and comment one way or the other. Okay, we will close the public end of it. And Ben, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think we've got further direction from the applicant. They intend to keep it on at night, but I think the requirement in terms of the foot candle measurements is going to address any brightness issues that you might see. Certainly, the neighbors are going to see that the sign is on, but the brightness would be such that it's not going to cause issues to the neighboring property, certainly the ones that are 300-plus feet away. So I think, again, going back to the conditions we'd already placed on it, that would address any nighttime brightness issues and make sure that it's not too bright for neighbors.
Do those typically, I guess, with weather conditions, you know, if it's rainy or whatever, do they automatically adjust to the conditions
Ambient
of the
lighting?
time?
I don't know that they automatically adjust. Again, there's probably some technology that it would allow that. I think what we're probably in some cases going to have to do is actually go out there and physically go out there at night and take measurements to make sure. And we'll just work with the applicant.
You know, some electronics too, if there's like a power outage or a surge, it'll reset to its default settings. Want to make sure that whatever you set those brightness standards to don't get changed if there's ever some kind of power outage. But
yeah, I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
This is something we're going to have to monitor. We'll work with them once it gets installed. We'll send somebody out there after dark and make sure that the measurements are correct, and then review it moving forward.
Any other questions?
I make a motion that we approve docket 22-41 as written.
I would second that.
Motion and second. Kelly?
Okay. Mark Vanneman,
Aye.
Chad Kiger,
Aye.
Bruce Polly,
Aye.
Ron Edwards,
Aye.
Lori Gross.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Next item tonight is docket 2242. Mark and Hayes Henderson. The property is located at 528 West Walnut Street in Lebanon. Property is zoned single-family residential and comprised of approximately 0.15 acres. The lot configuration is 85 feet wide, 70 feet depth.
Thank you, Mr. Polly. To give you an overview here, the applicant came to us and indicated that they were interested in constructing a two-car garage on their property. If they want to bring up the aerial photography and kind of give you an overview of what's going on in this area. This is an area of the community where the homes were built without garages at all. So for ones that haven't already added a garage, there's just parking in a driveway. You can see here, however, that a number of these homes have added garages, detached or attached garages over time. And I will also point out the fact that many of them do not meet our setback requirements, including 2 of them to the west and a couple of accessory structures to the north of this property and one to the east that you can see in this aerials. And I can assure you, if I were to zoom out further, we would find many more in this neighborhood because the way these houses with lots were constructed did not accommodate adding a garage. So in every case, a variance is going to be needed to try to put a 2-car garage on these lots. And so we have worked with the applicant to try to figure out the best way to do this and make sure that we're still getting as much setback as possible and really looking to try to create a walkway between the house and the garage and doing a 20-foot wide garage, which is about the minimum anymore for a 2-car garage. It's basically set back about 1 foot from the property line. Again, I'll point out, you look to the west, and that's about the same setback you're seeing everywhere else. What we did put as a condition in there, if approved, would be that they would get a survey of the property and physically locate that property line just to make sure that that is in fact a 1-foot setback they're proposing there. We don't want to get in a situation where they start building a garage and find out they're a foot over the property line rather than a foot away. So we did place a condition in there that they get the property surveyed, locate that property line so we can ensure that it's in fact 1-foot setback off the property line as they've proposed. So the request tonight is for an accessory structure side setback variance. to where our ordinance would require a 10-foot side setback. They are requesting to be a 1-foot side setback to basically shoehorn that garage in between the house and that eastern property line. Like I said, a 20-foot is kind of the minimum on a width for a garage anymore. So to be able to fit that standard 2-car garage in there, which, by the way, if somebody was building a new house in the city of Lebanon, would be required to have a 2-car garage. It just fits in there with a 1-foot setback with about a 3-foot walkway between the house and the garage. So that is the request for you tonight, is the relief from the accessory structure side setback requirement to reduce it from 10 foot to 1 foot on that property line. And again, for the record, we have identified the 3 findings of fact in the staff report. And in terms of the strict application of the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance, we've essentially identified exactly what I just talked about, is because the lots in the homes in this neighborhood are fairly small, and the subject lot is additionally restricted by the presence of an electric utility easement, which I didn't point out. The rear of their property, there's a significant part of that is an electric utility easement, so they can't scoot the garage back around behind the house and meet the setbacks, because then it'd be in the utility easement. There's essentially no location where the accessory structure could be placed and meet the required setbacks. The development precedent has been set by neighboring properties, which includes structures that maintain side setbacks similar to what is being requested by the applicant. So the strict application in terms of the UDO would require the subject property to meet a side setback that is unique in the immediate area. So with that, we've recommended approval of the development standards variance request to permit the construction of a garage that is 1 foot from the side property line, subject to the condition that I mentioned that the applicant obtain a survey by a licensed land surveyor to verify the garage location and the proposed 1-foot setback. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Have you got the garage construction plans or anything?
Yeah, I didn't pull them up. It's a fairly standard 2-car garage. See if it's going to show up real well here. Here we go. Okay, we'll pull the screen up again. I don't know that this is an exact image of the garage we're planning to build, but it is representative of what they're looking to build out here.
I think where I'm going with this is on the side setback of the 1 foot, is that at the base of the garage, or is that up at the overhang?
It is the base of the garage. So overhangs are exempted from the setback requirement.
But do you know what the overhang would be?
That looks like it's probably maybe an 8-inch overhang, probably. On that one, it's not a very, maybe 12 inches. It's not a very big overhang.
There an issue with water draining from this property onto the neighbor's property?
This one is shown with gutters. I think the applicant would have to identify whether they're intending to install gutters. This one in this image has gutters, so.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
We no longer have the primary dwelling square footage requirement for accessory structures, or we do still?
And actually, I talked with the applicant about this beforehand. This one is a 20 by 20 garage, which meets the 50% requirement. They're actually looking to try to make it a little bit bigger, and they didn't realize that they could have put that variance on this request too. They're actually looking to do 20 by 24 and increase the depth a little bit to get them more space. So this likely will be coming back next month with a square footage variance request to try to get a little bit more space. But as it's proposed right now, it's 20 by 20 and does meet that 50% requirement.
Assuming we've notified all the people in this room.
We have.
Other questions? Okay, would the applicant care to step forward?
I am Hayes Henderson. I am the owner of the resident. I am applying for the 1-foot variant, and as he spoke about the 20 by 24 that I'm willing to get, I misread Christie's email, and I thought I couldn't apply for that at all. My depth of the house is actually 24 foot, so it would be even with that, so it would look a little bit more natural. As far as the overhang you questioned, it's actually on the actual one I'm looking at, it is about 6 inches, and there will be gutters.
How are you gonna drain the water? Do you know how the water will drain? Just keep it off the neighbor's property?
So the gutters will bring it to the front, the driveway is sloped toward the road, which would be toward the south.
Okay.
I think what he's getting at, there's not much room for water shed. You get to that 1 foot, it's gonna run right under their property, right? So there's not much, so the key is to make sure that it sheds properly.
Right.
Yeah.
As he pointed out, about every person on that road has built a garages within that 1 foot mark, due to the fact that they didn't build houses that way. So I'm gonna do it up to spec. It's one of those pre-made ordeals, so it'll all be up to code as far as that goes. I can ask for whatever you want, but.
At least you're coming and asking for permission to put a garage in. A lot of people didn't.
Yeah, which I spoke to all my neighbors even about the 20 by 24, and they're all said I could build a castle if I want. They don't care, so.
Good neighbor.
Doing my due diligence.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, this is a public meeting. Not many people left, but if somebody wants to say something, please step forward. Okay, we'll close the public end of the meeting.
Motion to approve docket 2242 with the following condition. The applicant obtain a survey by licensed land surveyor to verify the garage location and the proposed 1 foot setback.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mark Banneman.
Aye.
Chad Kiger.
Aye.
Bruce Polly.
Aye.
Ron Edwards.
Aye.
Lori Gross.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, and you're coming back, he'll be back next month? Okay, we got one more tonight. It's Greg and Sherry Gibbs. It's docket 2243. Property is located at 505 Northeast Street here in Lebanon. Property is zoned single-family residential and comprised of approximately .18 acres. The lot configuration is 40 feet wide, 198 feet deep. Mr. Bontrager.
Mr. Polly, this discussion is going to seem very familiar based on the conversation we just had, because we're in a situation where we're looking to try to put another garage in a spot where one doesn't really fit. We pull up the overhead, we can kind of give you an idea what's going on here. As Mr. Polly mentioned, this is a 40-foot wide lot, so it's going to be difficult even just to fit a garage in here. We've got 10-foot setbacks from both property lines, which means your garage could only be 20 feet wide and fit the setbacks, which makes it pretty challenging. This is also pretty unique here as well, because while this is being, you can see here, this is being used like an alley. It's not actually an alley. There's no public right-of-way there for an alley, but this is being used like an alley for all these properties. A number of them have added an additional garage to the back, actually to the east of the alley. This one's even more unique. The applicant told me that, because you can see that this actually extends across the property line, both of those property owners use that garage. So they actually share it, but it extends across the property line. You can see in other cases, we've got garages that sit on property lines as well. So what they're actually looking to do, another unique thing here is the applicant is actually the owner of the house to the north. Their son is living in the house to the south. They're actually going to share this driveway. They're going to extend this out an additional 10 feet to the property line and then place the new garage in this area that looks like there's already things that have been parked there in a gravel area. That garage, then the doors will face to the north towards this shared driveway. So the setback variance will be due to the north property line here. It'll be close. They might actually meet the setback to the south, but it's going to be pretty close based on the garage size, which is a 24 by 26 garage. So this one is actually two requests similar to the previous applicant, although he'll be coming back for the second one. This is both an accessory structure side setback and then an accessory structure area. And again, you can see this home is about 1,000 square feet. They do have an existing single car garage on the property, which reduces the amount of square footage they would have. And right now, they're only permitted an additional 191 square feet, which is barely a single-car garage. They're proposing a two-car garage to the back here, and it's about a 624 square foot garage is what they're proposing back here. So again, in this case, they're looking to try to add some additional place for their son to be able to park cars and other tools and all that good stuff, and really needing to get that additional two-car garage back there. But it will be a situation where it will be a shared, essentially a large shared paved area between the two garages that you see here, as opposed to accessing them off this alley that's not really an alley. So that's the two requests before you, is the side setback. We're looking at a side setback from the north of about 2 to 3 feet from that north property line, and that's still being finalized on a site plan that they'll have to submit, as opposed to the required 10 feet. And then also the accessory structure area, they have about 191 additional square feet that they could put, and they're requesting 624 square feet. So those are the two requests, a relief from the side setback requirement and the accessory structure area requirement. And the conditions you're going to see are very similar. In case of the first variance associated with the setback, we have recommended approval of that to permit a construction garage that's 2 to 3 feet from the property line, subject to the condition that the applicant obtain a survey by a licensed land surveyor to verify the garage location, the proposed 2 to 3 foot setback associated with that north property line. Certainly, these are the same property owners currently, but that may change at some point in the future, so we want to make sure we're not creating some situation where the garage again extends over a property line and a new owner's not comfortable with that. So again, we just want to make sure to verify those property lines and make sure we've got the appropriate setbacks there. And we have recommended approval of both the setback and accessory structure area variance requests. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So you are adding that recommendation, staff recommendation that they do get a, it's not, because it's not on.
I do have, so yeah, I've got two recommendations in here. One, so if you're looking through the staff report, the staff recommendation for variance request number 1 does include that condition for the licensed land surveyor. Variance request number 2 is just recommending approval.
Questions?
Will there be a door facing the alleyway or no?
Yes.
There will be.
Oh,
And we'll let her come up and kind of walk you through. I do know that their garage door is facing to the door.
Yeah, our garage door faces to the west. But both doors will face.
Hold on, hold
The
on.
access doors will be on that.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we broadcast.
Both garage doors will be facing each other. One will be to the south and one will be to the north. The new one will be facing north. And they'll both have our access doors on the alley facing west, and you'll have an access door facing west also.
Okay.
And it will be sided with the same color and scheme of the actual house that we remodeled and redid 7 or 8 years ago. So it'll match exactly to the house that's set.
That was my only concern, if it was facing the new driveway.
Yeah.
If the properties did ever sell, person with your garage wouldn't be able to get in if it's on that property that it's built on.
Garage doors.
The garage door,
Yeah.
yeah. I just want to make sure there's one facing the alleyway too, so.
So you'd rather have it constructed to face the door, to go into the garage
Is
facing the
that,
alley?
am I hearing this right?
Or
That would be
So
my concern.
maybe it'd be helpful to pull the
Bring
map up again.
Bring the map up, please.
That's my concern, is if the properties ever sell, you got an overhead door facing a property that you can't access to get into the overhead door.
From an alley that doesn't exist.
Yeah, so, yeah,
See what I'm
we were just
saying?
talking about that there too, is you're right. I mean, if these properties become new owners and they're not friendly, that if there's a new property owner to the north, they could say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna let you use my driveway to get to your garage, and that could be an issue. One thing we could do to solve that is for them to record an access easement on the property. They could do that. I mean, again, they own both properties, and
Right.
it's hard to do. So, there's ways we can solve that to make sure that they always have access there. But again, you kind of saw the aerials, there's a lot of interesting things going on in this area.
Yeah.
People actually sharing a garage that overlaps property lines and all that good stuff. So,
Right.
but there are certainly ways we can address that to make sure that they will always have access if the properties change hands in the future.
Okay. And that as a stipulation, or a-
Is that something we should add to this?
Yes, I think we should, but
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
what,
Just add an additional condition to record an access easement along that property line, then we'll work with the applicant to figure out how best to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public meeting. If anybody cares to come forward, we'll close the public end of the meeting. And is there any more questions?
Not for me.
Okay, then,
I'll make a motion to approve docket 22-43 as written.
oh, wait a minute, do you want, not as written, you want to add that clause?
Is there a
To record an
specific
access
def-
easement.
Yeah, just add a condition to record an access
Access
easement along
easement.
that.
Add a
shared
condition?
property line. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it's as written with adding one clause to it. To
add
the
an access easement. Yep.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kelly?
Chad, you seconded?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Mark Vanneman?
Aye.
Chad Kiger?
Aye.
Bruce Polly?
Aye.
Ron Edwards?
Aye.
Lori Gross?
Aye.
Motion carries. Good luck.
Congrats.
Okay, I believe,
If it's not already, Mr. Chairman, if it's not already scheduled for July 5th, I make a motion that we move the next meeting to Tuesday, July 5th, due to the
already
holiday.
is.
Okay.
so,
Somebody thought ahead.
okay, the boss thought ahead.
Boss thought ahead.
Okay, do we have any other business tonight? If that be the case, close the meeting. Remind everybody that next month's meeting is going to be Tuesday, July the 5th.
Yep.
Being Monday's a holiday.
Yep, we've got it scheduled for the 5th already.
Few things going on here around.
Yeah. Okay, so, have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor, is aye.
Aye.
Motion is adjourned till July the 5th.
Well, enjoy yourself.